Hey guys, welcome to another movie review. Today I'm talking about the latest installment in the Planet of the Apes franchise, and that's Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. This is a continuation of that previous trilogy we got from a couple years ago. So that trilogy kind of focused on the character of Caesar, how the Planet of the Apes started, the supposed new trilogy that this film is going to be a first chapter of, according to Fox and Disney. This is going to be more so about the legacy of Caesar now that Caesar is gone. Kind of where does the Planet of the Apes go? Who kind of used his teachings for good or for bad? So that's kind of where this latest installment leaves us. Is in this Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes movie that I'm going to review for you today. Basically, the plot of this movie is Caesar has been gone for hundreds of years, if not longer. And basically, we find the apes kind of where they're at, who's using his teachings for good, who's using his teachings for bad. His teachings are kind of like how everyday people would might use like the Bible or some type of major historical figure for kind of how to live their life, how to treat others, kind of the ethics of life and stuff like that. So basically, we follow Noah, this new ape that we are introduced to, and basically his village is taken out right away. A lot of his apes have survived this really terrible attack by these evil apes that are using Caesar's teachings for bad stuff. And while he's trying to kind of figure out where his tribe might have went, where his remaining apes might have gone, he meets this ape named Raka on his journey, and Raka teaches him that a lot of the Caesar's teachings have been diluted over time. There's this new ape that's kind of the leader of the Planet of the Apes, named Proximus, and he's kind of using these teachings kind of in a very bad, toxic way. Definitely not the way that Caesar intended back when he taught the apes to do some of this stuff. And so Raka and Noah basically go on this journey of figuring out where everybody is, kind of seeing what we might see in the Bible of like Moses or one of them, using the teachings of God to teach people kind of the right way of doing stuff. And so in this case, instead of the teachings of God, it's the teaching of Caesar. And so on this journey, they also find out about this vault that through a human character that they meet along the way as well. And it's important that these new apes, this new Proximus-led apes of this, evil clan, I think they're called the Masked Apes or something like that they don't get a hold of this vault that they find out about. There is a lot of resources in it that they could use to make sure Proximus isn't the leader anymore, that Caesar's teachings do not get diluted anymore. And so over the course of this film, they have to figure out what's in the vault, how can they get there, how can they make sure not the wrong people don't get inside of it, and how can they make sure that Proximus's teachings are not going to be the new version of what Caesar's teachings originally were going to be. But overall, guys, I enjoyed this film. It's not a terrific movie. There's certainly some positives and negatives I want to talk about here. But as far as a Planet of the Apes film goes, as far as continuing that previous trilogy that a lot of us really liked, I in particular really, really liked Dawn of the Planet of the Apes back when that came out. But as far as following that film goes, kind of giving us a follow-up film, I think that for the most part this film succeeds. There's a couple things along the way I think could have been better. But I do want to talk about some positive negatives of things that I think really make this film work and really make it shine, while also some other things that I think could have been improved upon it and could have made it stand a better chance of being as good, if not better, than some of those previous Planet of the Apes films that we got. So for my positives and negatives, first and foremost, the visual effects in this film are absolutely masterful. The apes looked super realistic and great. All the environments look great. I'm almost certain that some of this has to be done in real locations somewhere, just because it just looks so incredible. And even for the scenes that are done on a soundstage, that are done through CGI, it really looks flawless. It really does look really quite incredible. Even the small things like the lighting and the way that the fur and the stuff like that would blow in the wind if it's like a windy day on the set and stuff. All of that looks great. So Wes Ball, who directed this movie, and I believe he did the Maze Runner films before this movie, he really did a terrific job with the visuals here. And I'm actually really excited that earlier in a couple months ago, I think they announced he's going to do the Legend of Zelda live action movie, which I am totally on board for after seeing this movie. Visuals alone, this guy knows how to direct a film as far as the visuals are concerned. Very masterful, very great looking visuals. Even like the motion capture and stuff on the apes, the way they looked like in the previous movie, they really did perfect it here as far as how that technology looks in this movie. Great visual effects. I can't praise it enough. It really is a terrific looking film. I really hope this film wins some Oscars as far as the visuals are concerned. I also thought the settings and environments were very immersive in this movie. We really get the impression that you are on the planet of the apes here. The Earth that we once know, the one that we currently know, is clearly gone at this point in the timeline of the franchise. This planet clearly belongs to the apes now, and they really do kind of drive that point home of the ships and how abandoned the buildings look, and how the cars are just kind of ripped apart and they're kind of full of moss and mold and stuff like that. So as far as how setting the stage for what the Planet of the Apes would look like this far into the timeline, I thought they did a terrific job here. Very immersive environments in this movie. And that goes into my next point. The cinematography is brilliant in this movie. There's definitely a lot of shots where they definitely put a lot of thought and time as to the audience should see it from Noah's perspective, or they should see it from Noah and Rocca's perspective. Pull the camera out a little bit more. Just the way that they staged and planned and possibly storyboarded some of these shots to make it look like the way that they did was really quite masterful and well directed. So cinematography wise, huge A plus, thumbs up for me. Love the cinematography of this film. And also the character of Proximus, he's kind of our new villain, kind of our new Koba, if you will. For those who remember Koba, he was kind of like the big villain of the previous trilogy. But Proximus is a very strong villain here. Definitely very evil, very toxic. Definitely an ape where you can see kind of why the apes are following him and why they feel like they have to follow him on this journey and follow his ruling. But as a result, because he is such a toxic person or toxic ape to be around in this case, you just know that what he's doing to these apes is just diluting the history, diluting what Caesar has taught all the apes, diluting what the right and the wrong things to do as apes are on the planet. And unfortunately, we don't see a lot of him, so I'm going to get back to that when we go into our negatives. But when we do see Proximus, and he is on screen, when we kind of get to see Proximus be Proximus, this villain, he really is quite a strong threat here. I thought it was a very great character to introduce us to, and hopefully if we do get more Planet of the Apes films, we get characters that are as good, if not better, than Proximus. I also like the characters of Noah and Rocca. They're the kind of the apes that we follow along throughout this film. More so Noah than Rocca. Rocca's kind of introduced later on in the movie, but Noah, you can definitely tell he wants things to go back to the way they were. He wants Caesar's teachings the way Caesar intended to be what the apes follow, not what Proximus is trying to teach them to do. And you just really get along with him. You really follow him on this journey. You feel sorry for him. There's things about him. He's very adventurous. He's naive in a good way. Like you can tell if they're going to make more movies that they're going to probably give him some more development and kind of make him a better ape and make him a more knowledgeable character and stuff. So I just like the overall journey that we're being sent on with Noah, whether it is the good and the bad, him losing family, him gaining family. And like I said, the character of Rock is a lot of fun too because he's very knowledgeable, very funny at times too. Definitely very well written characters for this film. I also like the idea and the message the film has of how history can be diluted over time by corrupt individuals. Definitely the character Proximus is definitely a prime example of this. You can just tell that he used the teachings of Caesar and kind of diluted it to kind of match his ruling, make the apes follow him instead of another ape that might have just strictly gone off of Caesar's teachings. And I do like how there's times in history where we kind of dilute the teachings of someone or something to kind of make that corrupt individual's agenda work better. So I thought that observation in history was well observed here and applied here for this film too. I also like how the film sets the stage for what might happen next within the Planet of the Apes franchise, whether it is kind of reintroducing us to the Charlton Heston character or, bringing in more of an intergalactic element like what the first film did, or kind of be about Noah, be kind of, about the messiahs of Planet of the Apes, kind of how they're trying to teach everybody the way of Caesar again. Whether they're going to go down that road or not, I don't really know. But the way they're setting the stage, the way they're kind of setting up the mystery for what they could possibly do next, I thought was also well handled here. It makes me excited for what else they might have in store for future Planet of the Apes films. For my negatives of this movie, though, why it's not quite as good as like a Dawn of the Planet of the Apes or Rise of the Planet of the Apes, unfortunately, is there is a lot of slower moments in this movie, and I don't really mean by like character development or anything like that. They're just they feel slow. They run slow. They feel slow, and there's just certain times where I feel like certain plot points take a lot of time from going from point A to point B, much longer than they should. So I don't know if that's a fault in the editing or just the way it's paced. But there is some moments here where it feels a lot slower than it probably should be for editing purposes. And overall, this really is not the best Planet of the Apes film. I guess what I mean by that is this film has a strong central concept. It has great characters like Noah and Raka, and all this other stuff along the way. But I feel like besides that strong central concept, there's really not a lot of small sub concepts along to go with it. So it's just one of those films where because the central concept is strong, the film feels strong too. But the second it's not about that central concept at all, it's supposed to be about smaller things. I feel like that's kind of where the film falters. I feel like there wasn't as many ideas thrown in as far as that strong central concept went. I feel like that does kind of hurt the film overall because some of the previous Planet of the Apes films did manage to achieve some smaller concepts along with the big ones too, while this one is more so about a big concept being stretched really far. Another negative I have with the film is going back to Proximus. I really feel like he needs more screen time. He's introduced very late into the film, and by the time the film's over with, you kind of realize that there's not as much screen time dedicated to him as much as you probably would have liked to. And I feel like if you're really going to make an impact with your villain, really kind of give us some time as the viewers to really kind of marinate just how terrible this character is, and kind of how when the characters do manage to stop this other evil character's plans, that it makes more of an impact. So I thought that aspect of the story could have been better handled as well. Um, and also, my last negative is some of the lip syncing of the apes felt a little bit off to me. There's just times where you can tell the voice actors doing their job, but um, it doesn't really sync well with some of the apes' dialogue when their lips are moving and stuff. There's just times in the film where I felt like it didn't quite match as well as it should have. But overall, I'm going to give Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes an 8.5 out of 10. I think it's a very well made movie. There's obviously tons of great things I can say about it. Visual effects alone is worth the price of admission alone, I would say. But there is some slower moments. It's just not the best Apes film. There's definitely better films before it. Proximus needed more screen time. It needed to have more ideas to it besides just a big central concept. I think some smaller concepts would have helped this film as well. And like I said, some of the lip syncing to the apes felt a little off to me also. So 8.5 out of 10 for me. Really enjoy this film. Highly recommend you go see it. But just go in knowing that it's not a perfect film. It's not going to be the best Apes film. Whatever your favorite Planet of the Apes film going into this film is probably still going to be your favorite after you leave the theater from this one. But I still recommend it. If you love Planet of the Apes, make sure to see this one. It's a very well made movie.